Hello everyone, welcome to your vocabulary lesson. So we've been looking at adding the suffixes and est to adjectives to make comparing easier. So we're going to go through a few of those adjectives that we did last week, and then we're going to read a story and try and identify some more adjectives where we can add those suffixes to the end to compare different objects. So first of all, we are comparing the height of these three people. So when we compare height, we talk about things being tall or short. Okay, we don't really use the word big or small because that's not very specific to height. That can be about the width of things, so the size of things side to side, or the length of things as well. So if we're specifically talking about somebody's height, we usually use the adjectives tall or short. So let's have a look at these three words. Can you read this word here that describes this boy? Did you say tall? Well done. So this boy is tall. And what about this boy? He is taller. Well done. And then this man is the tallest. That's right. So he is tall, he is taller, and he is the tallest. The next adjectives. So this time we're comparing the length of pencils. And we're using a word here that can be used to describe the height or the width. So can you have a go at reading this first adjective that describes this first pencil? Use your sounds. That's right, short. So this pencil is short. This pencil is shorter. Well done. And this pencil is the shortest. Amazing. Now we are using words to describe the general size of these animals. So what does this adjective say to describe the cat? That's right, the cat is small. The mouse is, did you say smaller? Amazing, the mouse is smaller, and the ant is the smallest. Well done. Now we're using the adjective long, which means the distance from end to end. So tall and short is the distance from top to bottom, and long is the distance from end to end. So I've used some examples that you gave me last week when you were doing your quizzes. They were really good examples of long things. So can you have a go at reading these sentences with me? A worm is long. Next sentence, what does it say? A lizard is longer. Well done. That means the lizard is longer than a worm. And finally, a snake is the longest. Good. The snake is the longest because it's longer than a lizard and longer than a worm. Okay, so now we're going to listen to the story of the three little pigs. And I want you to think about how we can compare the three houses the pigs built, knowing what we know about suffixes. So which adjective can we use to describe the pigs' houses that we can add the suffix and est to the end of to compare them? So let's find the story. There we go. Okay. So the three little pigs. Once upon a time, there lived three little pigs. One day, they decided to leave home and build houses of their own. The first little pig thought that straw would make a good house. He built the house very quickly and he was very pleased with himself. The second little pig thought that sticks would make a fine house, so he decided to build his house out of wood. The third little pig thought that bricks would make a strong house. It took him a long time to build the house, but he was very pleased with it. One day, a big bad wolf came along. He saw the first little pig in his house of straw. Little pig, let me come in, he snarled. Not by the hair on my chinny chin chin, said the first little pig. Then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house down, growled the big bad wolf. So he huffed
and he puffed, and he blew the house down. The first little pig escaped and ran to join his brother in the house made of wood. But the big bad wolf followed the little pig to the house made of wood. Little pig, let me come in, he snarled. Not by the hair on my chinny chin chin, said the second little pig. Then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down, growled the big bad wolf. So he huffed and he puffed and he blew the house down. The little pigs escaped and ran to join their brother in the house made of bricks. But the big bad wolf followed the pigs to the house made of bricks. Little pig, let me come in, he snarled. Not by the hair on my chinny chin chin, said the third little pig. Then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down, growled the big bad wolf. He huffed and he puffed, but the house was too strong. He could not blow it down. This made the big bad wolf very angry. He climbed onto the roof of the house so that he could crawl down the chimney. The big bad wolf was in for a big surprise. The third little pig had been cooking a big pot of stew, and splash! The wolf fell right into the pot. The wolf was very shocked. He jumped out of the pot and ran straight out of the house. He never came back again. The 3 little pigs lived happily ever after in the house made of bricks. And that's the end. So, I'm sure you probably know that story really well. You would have heard it lots of times, I would imagine. So, were you thinking about the adjectives that we could use to describe the 3 little pigs' houses? So pause the screen here to have a think. I wonder if you can think of at least one adjective to describe their houses. Okay, how did you get on? I wonder, did you think of the word strong to compare their houses? Well done if you did. So let's have a go at using the adjective strong and seeing what happens when we add those suffixes and est to the end. So if the root word is strong, what's the next word going to be with on the end? That's right, stronger. So let's clone it. Oops. There we go, stronger. And what about this word with the suffix est on the end? What's that going to be? That's right, strongest. Okay, so let's read through those words again, those adjectives again. So we've got strong, stronger, and strongest. So we're going to use those 3 words to compare their houses. So which house then is strong, but not stronger or the strongest? Pause the screen here to think about which house is strong. Did you say the straw house? Yes, that's right, because the straw house is reasonably strong. The first pig still manages to build a house out of it, and it stays upright until the wolf comes and blows it down. So the straw house is strong, that's right. But which house is stronger than the straw house, but not the strongest of all 3? That's right, the house made of sticks. The stick house is stronger than the straw house. And which house is the strongest? The brick house, that's right. And why is the brick house the strongest house? How do we know it's the strongest? Can you pause the screen to explain? Yes, so we know it's the strongest house because the big bad wolf could not blow it down. So the straw house is strong, the stick house is stronger, and the brick house is the strongest. Good. Now, did you think of any other adjectives that could describe the houses. Let's move these out of the way. So strong is a really good one. And I'll give you a clue if you're not sure. It's the opposite of strong. Did you think of the word? What does it say? Can you use your sounds? Weak. Weak. Did you think of the word weak? Amazing if you did. So weak would be the root word, the root adjective. Now, what happens if we add the suffix er onto the end of weak? Can you have a think? That's right, weaker. Let's make that word. Weaker. And then what about if we add the suffix est onto the end of weak? What would that be? That's right, weakest. So let's read those words. We've got weak, and this word says weaker, and this word says weakest. Right, okay, so if we're thinking about those three adjectives then, comparing the houses, which house do you think is weak, but not weaker and not the weakest? Now that's a tricky one, isn't it? Did you say the brick house is weak? So if you did, you're sort of right, because if we're comparing all three of them and saying that all three are weak, then it would be, it's not the weaker one, it's not the weakest. But can we really use the word weak, the adjective weak, to describe the brick house? No, not really, because we've already said that the brick house is the strongest. So we can't really say it's the strongest house and then say it's a weak house. So we're not going to actually use the root adjective for this one, because the brick house is not weak. The brick house is strong. So which house is weaker than the brick house? We know the brick house is strong, and that means that the other two houses are weaker, aren't they? So which is weaker, but not the weakest? Can you pause to have a think? Yeah, that's right. The stick house is weaker than the brick house, but it's not the weakest, is it? Which house is the weakest? Did you say the straw house? Yes, the straw house is the weakest because it flew down the easiest and it's made of the least hardy material. So let's go through those words then. So let's think about the brick house being strong, and then the stick house is weaker, and the straw house is the weakest of all three. A bit trickier, that last adjective when we're comparing, wasn't it? Okay, so now it's time for your main task. So go over to Teams to complete the quiz, which is all about adjectives and the suffixes that we can use to compare different words. Okay, see you later, guys.